Hi, welcome to MediatorPodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things mediation, negotiation, and collaboration. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide online valuation, divorce, and mediation services in St. Louis, Missouri. In this week's episode, we will discuss family mediation, a unique way to get divorced, with Daryl Weinman. She is a family law attorney and mediator in Austin, Texas. Daryl has been board certified in family law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization since 2000, an honor granted to less than 1% of Texas attorneys. She's also part of the Austin Bar Association in the Alternative Dispute Resolution section and the Texas Family Law Foundation. Another interesting thing is she's a member of American Academy of Certified Financial Litigators. Part of being in Texas is that mediation is kind of a required step. So do you see this as a good part of the process? And like, how does it work? You know, because I think in a lot of states, you can either just go to court or you can go to mediation, but there's also states that kind of have it as a combo. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Texas does?
Yeah, and so it's not a state requirement. It's really county by county, but most counties have adopted a required mediation prior to, if you want more than 3 hours of a court's time for a final hearing, you have to at least have made a good faith effort to mediate. And there's exceptions, some domestic violence exceptions, things like that. But for the most part, you have to at least have tried. And there are people who come to me who, they never want to go near the courthouse. They say up front, I really want to mediate. And I'll tell them, well, it's required anyway. So we are going to make that effort and hopefully we will get it resolved. But, you can't always control both sides. Somebody may really want to settle and somebody may be way too emotional and can't settle. And we end up in trial anyway. And then there are people who are like, why am I wasting my time going to mediation? They're never going to agree. We can't agree. If the sky is blue, why would we go? And those people I also need to kind of talk down and say, look, you need to understand the process because there is a process. And the way we approach it in Central Texas is, and I think it's different than a lot of other places, is we caucus immediately. So that means that the clients are in two different rooms. And for, I would say, most mediations, they never see each other. I mean, even if they're in the same office suite, they're in conference rooms at at opposite ends with their attorneys, and the mediator goes back and forth and handles. I would say for the most part, they all do issue-based mediation. And what I try to explain to my clients is that it doesn't really matter why we got to the compromise at the end. It's everyone's going to have their different reason. And so, someone say, maybe we've settled everything and we're $20,000 apart before we can settle. And, she's saying, I'm not going to settle until I get my attorney's fees paid. And he says, oh, hell no, I'll never pay her attorney's fees. But, she can have 20,000 more of my retirement. Well, okay, great. So we come up with this bottom line number and it's settled and done, and it doesn't have to be labeled anything. And, that's very hard to explain to somebody who's never been through the process, that is kind of how we end up there after hours and hours and hours. And they laugh too, like, why is this scheduled for 8 hours? What would we have to talk about for that long? And then we get through 6 hours, they're like, wow, that flew by and we have so much more to do.
Well, and I think that that's how the world is moving, is that it's, before it was kind of like you choose litigation, you choose mediation, you choose collaborative divorce, you sit down and just chat with each other. One person hires a attorney. There's so many ways to do it. There's so many choices.